And now it's time for our last panel, which is called a Fireside Chat. The theme is how to future-proof the interpreting profession. And for this, I would like to ask my dear friend and colleague Alicja Okoniewska to come to the stage with the speakers for this panel.
There are three things you need if you want to be a simultaneous interpreter. First of all, you need to be able to speak confidently, articulately, about a wide range of subjects.
Buenos días, señoras y señores. Estamos llegando al final de estos dos interesantísimos e intensos días de debates. Esta es la última conversación. Soy Alicja Okoniewska, jefa del sector de planificación de relevo y de la formación de los futuros intérpretes de la Dirección-General de Interpretación de la Comisión Europea. Soy también intérprete y formadora. Para una charla al calor de fuego, nos falta el fuego. Pero esta falta está con creces recompensada con la presencia de los fantásticos intervinientes. Me complace enormemente presentar a los intervinientes. Alexandra Panagakou es actualmente directora de intérpretes en la Dirección-General de Interpretación de la Comisión Europea. También preside el grupo de trabajo sobre las cuestiones relacionadas con la interpretación de la Reunión Anual Internacional sobre Disposiciones Lingüísticas, Documentación y Publicaciones, YAMDAP. Alexandra es intérprete griega de la Comisión Europea y en el pasado estaba a cargo de la unidad griega y de la unidad de la formación y apoyo para los intérpretes. Kilian Seeber es profesor de la Facultad de Traducción e Interpretación de la Universidad de Ginebra, donde ejerce de vicedecano y director de programa del máster en estudios avanzados en formación de intérpretes. Es investigador principal de LaborInt, Laboratorio para el Tratamiento Complejo del Lenguaje. Kilian es intérprete de conferencias acreditado, formador de intérpretes, investigador y ponente. Su modelo de carga cognitiva ha sido utilizado ampliamente para conceptualizar procesos que sustentan la interpretación simultánea. Su investigación marcó el modo en que este campo concibe el procesamiento multimodal multilingüe. Esta charla tiene un doble objetivo. Primero, nos gustaría referirnos un poco a los elementos mencionados en estos 2 días de debates y luego querría aprovechar los conocimientos expertos, la experiencia y la perspectiva institucional y formadora de los intervinientes para hablar sobre el futuro. Bueno, pues, ¿cómo preparar, Alexandra, cómo preparar la profesión de intérprete para el futuro?
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. So, hello, thank you very much. Talking about the future, this is the most difficult topic, of course, and being at the end, it's again very difficult. So when they told me, you have to participate in this last talk, I thought I had a bit of an imposter syndrome. I've been in SCIC for 33 years. Am I going to talk about the future? So I would like to ask for your help. We're going to do a Slido because we were all together here for these 2 days. We heard fantastic interventions, we heard fantastic discussions. So please help me and help me reply. How can we future-proof the interpreting profession, in your opinion? In maximum 2 words, please.
Ya estamos viendo las primeras palabras. Alta cualidad, adaptación. ¿Es lo que esperabas, Alexandra?
Please go on typing, because for me, this was precisely the question. What I'm going to say, because it's true I have more than 1 or 2 words, it's not totally fair for you, but what we were going to say, is it linked to what you have taken out from this meeting? And I must say, I feel very much relieved because a lot of things I see here, yes, adaptation, high quality, embrace change, embrace technology. All these things make me think that in order to future-proof the profession, we should not see antagonistically, human interpreting, AI interpreting, and we should not be afraid of this ghost, over there, because this is the worst thing, when something is totally undefined and you keep being worried about that and you keep closing yourself. This is not the point. It is something that can help us. It is something that can maybe work in a lot of cases. So let's not be afraid of it. Let's work with it. Let's understand it. So yes, I think we're very close.
Kilian, ¿qué te parecen estas palabras?
Thank you. Two things stand out, and I don't know whether these were put to please the people who mentioned them first. I think we've come full circle to what Juan Carlos was saying at the very beginning of the event, when I think he said something to the effect of, so long as there is quality, the risk of being replaced is low. It's with waning quality that the risk of being replaced increases. And then right underneath it, we have Marie's quote about adaptation or adaptability. I think she's the one who said, let's not misunderstand fit to mean you have to be the fastest, the strongest, and what have you, but you need to be the one who adapts the most readily. And that's also something the laureate picked up upon. I don't know the way in which she meant it when she said, been a fit, physically fit to be in the booth, or am I adaptable enough? And maybe I'm going out on a limb here and interpreting her words, but maybe during the coffee break she can let me know what it is she meant by being fit for the job.
Gracias. Pues ya sabemos lo que piensa la audiencia. Aquí hemos discutido sobre muchos de estos temas, hemos discutido sobre la confidencialidad, la responsabilidad, la adaptabilidad. Y incluso, Kilian, uno de los panelistas afirmó que la relación de la formación de los intérpretes con la tecnología debe recibir atención por parte de las instituciones formadoras. ¿Qué tenemos que hacer? ¿Reformar los programas de interpretación? ¿Formar nuevos formadores? ¿Cuál es tu perspectiva?
It's a complex question. How does one best answer a complex question? But by answering it with a number of questions. I think technology obviously has a place in training, but a few questions that come to mind, and I think these are questions that all of us who are involved in the training of interpreters need to seriously ask ourselves. What do we train? And we've heard a number of things, well, at times doomsday scenarios, but also just technology being described with a lot of potential. So what type of technology is it that we need to integrate in the curriculum? The first question is the what. Without the what, we're not training anything. The second question is the who. Who trains? And at times, imposter syndrome was mentioned. I feel a little bit like the one-eyed man in the realm of the blind. And if we are honest with ourselves as trainers, we don't even see 2020 on that one eye. To mean that at times we as trainers are ill-prepared to train something which we might not fully understand either. Only downstream from that come the questions of when do you train it? And that's something that was mentioned as well. When in the curriculum do you introduce certain things? There's basic skills have been mentioned. They were mentioned by Judith. They were mentioned by Alice. They were mentioned by a few others in little side remarks. And then eventually the how. How does one train? Is it enough? And I don't think it is. Is it enough to simply give people the experience of something, have experiential training opportunities, as in play with this, and you'll learn how to use it? And maybe we'll get back to that a little later when I have more time to talk about the pedagogical approach.
Sí. Has hecho la pregunta, ¿a quién vamos a formar? Alexandra, ¿cómo atraer a las personas a esta profesión hablando del futuro?
Well, as we heard, this is one of the major challenges, maybe the most important challenge. You cannot do something future-proof, you cannot make it future-proof if there is no future. And what is the future? The people, the young people who are interested in these professions and want to study. And we heard a lot about this. Sally mentioned it first. And we see the difficulties now, with integrating technology, etc. But I was very much inspired by the first panel yesterday, where I saw how much the training institutions are thinking of integrating AI technology in the courses. Okay, with all these questions you mentioned, Kilian, of course. And also, if I may say, how interesting is the fact that they are trying to rebrand a bit, the studies. And we are talking also in SKIC a bit about rebranding certain things, because finally, the way I believe to attract these young people to the profession is by making clear that AI is part of this profession, not experientially simply, not simply go and play with it, because we know young people today know how to use AI. There are pupils at school who do their homework already now by using ChatGPT. This is not the point. The point is, how do you use it professionally? How can you use it reliably? How can you use it so that you can deliver the service? And I think this is part of the curriculum, has to be part of the curriculum, has to be taught. And this is how you can attract young people, by showing that we are not, you are not the losers, those who do not understand anything about computers. It is not this the point. It is something, so AI, technologies, that you know how to use, and you deliver a service that is wanted. The second part I would like to mention here is, of course, the outreach of the employers, of the institutions, okay? We have an obligation to go out and say consistently, I think Alison mentioned it, we have to be consistent in the message about the fact that we need linguists, we need interpreters. We heard it, it is a common concern of all international organizations, but the message has to be consistent and clear. We need them for these particular jobs, the languages we need, but also we offer jobs that can integrate technology, that can integrate AI, that can be, if you like, jobs of the future.
Sí, muchas gracias. Quiero justo volver a estas competencias, a esto que has dicho, que la tecnología tiene que ser parte de la profesión, porque hemos oído referencias aquí a varias aplicaciones tecnológicas, desde empezando por poder prestar el prestar el servicio a distancia, por ejemplo, pasando por cómo la inteligencia artificial nos asiste en la cabina, en el proceso de interpretación. E incluso hemos hablado de posiblemente cómo puede la inteligencia artificial sustituir la agencia, o sea, la decisión humana, o sea, automatizar ciertos procesos. O sea, todas estas competencias forman parte de lo que podría llamar una caja de herramientas, y creo que Anika también lo ha mencionado. O sea, es una caja de herramientas que llevamos con nosotros, llegamos con esta caja y luego la llevamos durante toda la carrera de intérprete. Alexandra, hemos escuchado consideraciones de otros panelistas sobre, por ejemplo, formar intérpretes consejeros, formar o utilizar intérpretes supervisores de la inteligencia artificial. ¿Qué competencias dentro de esta caja demandarán los empleadores y cómo se abordarán las diferencias entre los niveles de adaptación tecnológica que presenten los futuros intérpretes?
Okay, what is the right introduction to this? This is a complex question, but I'm not going to reply with questions. I'll try to give a reply. So I see 3 points here. First point is the fundamental skills. And I'm not going to dwell very much on this, because there are a lot of people who talked about this here today and yesterday, much more eloquently than me. So I really was taking notes furiously when Marie was talking, when Juan Carlos was talking, when Dr. Perhaker was talking, also when Anika talked. Sorry, yes. So the fundamental skills are very important. And you said it too. You said high quality. So this is the basis. We start with that. Because what can replace interpretation, and I can come back to this, is bad interpretation. AI can replace bad interpretation, low quality. So first step. Then the second category of skills, if you like, that I would like to mention is precisely, and it is not something you have not heard, is all these skills that are needed in order to enhance, facilitate the interpreter in the booth. We heard from Carlos yesterday, and there was a whole wish list, okay, of different tools, and how we can use. But the whole point is that we need people who work in the booth to be able to use these skills so that they can deliver interpretation better. And I understand that this is quite a challenge, but I believe that a lot of these activities can be trained, can be taught. A lot of these skills, no activities, sorry. So, for example, I heard yesterday Erika saying, oh, how can I use all these screens? And at the same time, you, Alicia, told me yesterday that when you went in the booth, you were trying to find the third screen that was missing where you could project the machine translation of a written text. So, as you see, there are ways. We just have to be able to understand, to teach. I agree, we have to teach, and to have to adapt, of course, to this new reality in the booth. There, we we certainly need more research to see what it means for the cognitive load, to see how people can work in this way without being distracted from delivering the service. And there is a third category of skills, which are, if you like, the new skills, the new profiles, because there are new things that interpreters can do. We heard a lot about AI interpreting and a lot of things, but for me, AI interpreting is as good as the language model is. What is the quality of the language model? Can you use generic language models wherever? We are in a niche, it is true, conference interpreting, and especially in the EU environment with 24 languages, the demands, if you like, for quality and for the content of the language models are much higher because we have to deliver for situations where humans, individuals, are impacted by what we say. Legislation applies to humans, but also decisions of the court apply to humans. So this is very, as you understand, demanding, challenging. There are questions of legal liability and other issues we heard about accountability. So you need linguists, interpreters, who train, who curate the models, who make sure that there are corrections, that the feedback loop is taken care of, etc. And we have a certain experience in SCIC with language models for 8 languages. So there are new skills. But at the same time, there are other profiles, for example, profiles that help us provide other type of language services. And we need to train and, of course, to select for these new skills. I put an asterisk here. I'll come back maybe later to this. Thank you.
Gracias. Sí, quiero justo hacer referencia a lo que dices que tenemos que formar. Tenemos que formar y has mencionado un montón de cosas muy interesantes, entre otras la distracción. Kilian, ¿la universidad puede preparar a los futuros intérpretes para adquirir y desarrollar estas competencias que ha mencionado Alexandra? Porque sabemos que el objetivo principal de los programas de interpretación es enseñar técnicas de interpretación. O sea, ¿en qué momento integramos en el programa? Y sé que esta pregunta ya ha sido planteada, pero me parece interesante continuar y un poco hablar de eso. ¿En qué momentos insertamos en los programas de interpretación la inteligencia artificial o cualquier uso de tecnología? Por ejemplo, ¿antes de que los estudiantes dominen la toma de notas o después? Y, Kilian, ¿te parece problemático, te resulta problemático que los estudiantes puedan, en teoría, desarrollar una cierta dependencia tecnológica? ¿Cómo lo ves?
I guess it is by virtue of being on the last panel that you get all the difficult questions. Let me react to one thing you said about note-taking. and I do speak. Where's Andy? We have an expert back there, all the way in the back. And I'm not going to plug. Beg your pardon? You cannot hear me? I do apologize. That would not work then. So we have an expert on note-taking in the room, so I'm going to be careful about what I say, and maybe what I'm about to say is heresy. The note-taking example, I think, is a good one when it comes to when to introduce what. To me, note-taking for some time has turned into a pedagogical tool much more than anything else. And I think many, if not most, conference interpreters will admit that they use note-taking to a rather limited extent. And yet, as a teaching tool, it is the bedrock of training analysis, of training what other speakers have mentioned, the search for meaning, the search for intention that is done by means of, with a catalyst of notes. So I would not want to bypass that. Let me wrote down a little analogy before. Pocket calculators. Everybody uses them. Everybody has a phone with what, back in the day, if you had a Casio, you had it on your wrist. I never got one. So I had a pocket calculator. So you do your math using a calculator, and yet I assume that most of us would agree that having fundamental math skills are imperative. It drives me bananas when I go to the store. You're checking out, and whoever's at the checkout punches in whatever. The register doesn't work. They're unable to give you your change. If you still, like me, pay with cash, they're unable to give you your change because they cannot add or subtract 17 from 98. It's impossible. It's an unsurmountable mathematical feat. And okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but that's what I would want to avoid. I would want for trainees to know that before I then think about introducing something. Dependency, and that's a bit along the same lines. If the only way you can add 7 and 9 is by means of a phone or a calculator, something has gone off the rails. Somebody mentioned a Tesla. Who mentioned a Tesla? And yeah. Oh, Allison. I don't have the budget to purchase a Tesla, so I'm going. I'm going to be out of my depth here because I drive an 11-year-old Chrysler that has no technology in it, and yet I know that with gadgets such as lane assist, the machine can help you. I would still want any driver on the road to be able to stay between the lines. I'm happy if on top of that, they can rely on lane assist. The same thing with the indicator. They should know that when they pass, they need to turn on the blinker. So much to dependency.
Muchas gracias. Creo que estas comparaciones y metáforas parecen muy claras. Creo que, ahora quiero pasar a un tema que está relacionado, porque hemos hablado sobre las competencias, ahora quiero hablar sobre la predisposición que tienen que tener los futuros intérpretes. Y hemos escuchado, alguien ayer dijo que los intérpretes tienen que ser agentes de cambio, o somos agentes de cambio. Entonces, para hacer eso necesitamos una predisposición hacia la tecnología. La literatura llama a esta predisposición disponibilidad tecnológica de intérpretes y lo define como la disposición de las personas para adoptar y utilizar nuevas tecnologías con el fin de alcanzar objetivos profesionales. Kilian, ¿cómo puede la formación de intérpretes fomentar esta predisposición tecnológica o disponibilidad tecnológica? Y por otro lado, ¿qué nuevas oportunidades abre esta predisposición para los estudiantes?
Tech readiness, right? That's that's the buzzword. How do we make sure we're tech ready? Openness of mind. So long as we're closed-minded, we're not going to be ready. But right on the heels of that, understanding the beast. I am not sure I understand the beast. I think Alison at some point said, I'm not sure we know how it does it, whatever it does. And I agree. Now, there's some in the room who know a little more about how it does what it does. But do we understand the difference between AI and machine translation and neural translation with large language models, and how decisions are made within that model? That is what we need to understand as trainers, and then have students grasp that. If we understand how the thing does what it does, we can interact with it in a meaningful and critical way. So long as it's magic, with a Harry Potter spell, it's a forced choice. It's either you believe it or you don't. But there is a reason why there is bias, and it's explainable. Anecdote. It's not because I'm lazy, but perhaps I am. So I turned to ChatGPT, could have been any other model, to help me find some articles to read in preparation of an article I was going to write. And I asked it, I thought my prompt was really good, it was very specific, and I said, I want scholarly articles on the use of a particular methodology in the study of simultaneous interpreting. And with its comforting voice, no problem, Kilian, here's your answers. And I get my top 10. I was over the moon to see that I ranked third. My own article was the third one listed. The only problem, I never used that methodology. So I know for a fact that I was not in a drunken stupor when I wrote that article. I know what's in it, and I know I never used that. And yet, the machine sold it to me. And I said, are you sure? And it said, yes, I'm sure. I'm like, do you want to play this game? Should I ask you what I actually wrote? I didn't. But all of that to say, if students, only if students understand how the machine works and why the machine does what it does, can we have a meaningful dialogue. What to put into the curriculum to get them tech ready. There's some no-brainers. Prep tools. Those are relatively easy, I would say, to integrate in the curriculum. Again, a number of experts, both here but also elsewhere. AIC has done a great job in ramping up their efforts to offer professional development courses. I think CUT can also do more in terms of dissemination of knowledge, but terminology extraction and glossary building and all of that, so everything that's upstream of the actual process, I think is a no-brainer. Then the real-time integration into the workflow, I'm wondering, how can we integrate that? Why should we integrate that when nowhere interpreters go today, it's being used? So what am I training them for? And that's perhaps where we need more dialogue to get some feedback, because we want to make sure that the people we train are tech ready for a market that tells us this is what we expect.
Otra vez resulta patente que tenemos que hablar las instituciones formadoras y las instituciones empleadoras de los intérpretes. Alexandra, hablando de las predisposiciones, ¿qué predisposiciones serán necesarias para integrar eficazmente en el lugar de trabajo estas herramientas tecnológicas? ¿Y cómo pueden los empleadores justo guiar, recibiendo estos estudiantes o nuevos intérpretes de las instituciones formadoras, cómo pueden guiarles para potenciar sus conocimientos o lo que han aprendido para que respondan exactamente a las necesidades de los empleadores.
Yeah, okay, exactly. This is really the question, and I understand you passed me the ball, so thanks. So what I can say at this stage where we are today, and a lot of people have mentioned it already, we are at the beginning of the process, okay? So it is true that we are talking a lot about these additional tools that we can use in the booth, but it is true that they're not quite widely spread. And the reason for this is precisely quality, okay? What I mentioned before. Because what I said before about the language models for AI interpreting is equally valid for the tools that support interpreters in the booth. You cannot give interpreters something that risks taking them out of the lines, or that it risks, collisions or other issues that you can have with the analogy you mentioned. But it is true that we are working, and we are working in precisely about this, to see how we can integrate these kind of technologies to help interpreters in the booth. So I hope that soon we will be able to have more to say about this, because, as I said, it is important to maintain the quality and the reliability of the service. This is very important. We cannot, in the prioritization of things, one has to make sure that the trade-off works in favor of the delivery, in favor of the high quality of interpreting. So this is one thing. But I hear very well what you said, that it is necessary to clarify also, if you like, to be clear about our game, okay? If we want new profiles, if we want new skills, we also have to do our homework with institutions, the employers. We have to identify the skills, and we have to say how we're going to work with them, providing the proper framework. Huh? So this is our job, I think, and it is a great, if I can say, opportunity out of this conference to know that we have to work on that. So it's a very good homework for us. Thank you for this. This is point one. But if we're talking about, mindsets, openness to technology, tech readiness, there are other issues I would like to mention simply, to complete the picture, okay? So I talked about the administrations, how we should work about that, knowing, of course, the limitations, because we have to work in a human-centric and ethical way. And another element I would like to touch is, of course, how do we manage, and again, it is our job as employers, how do we manage customers' expectations? We heard it before. How can we convince people that it is not, that you cannot go into a multilingual conference, because I repeat, we work in a particular context with 24 official languages and more languages to come. And we do conference interpreting. So how can you convince people that AI interpreting is not that I take my mobile with me and I put it like that, and by magic, it starts, translating, it does, speech to text and text to speech, and in the middle, machine translation in a reliable and good way. It doesn't work like that. I think we now have a unique window of opportunity to go out and explain these things. Talk to the customers. A colleague of mine told me, Whisper, the tool that it is used by OpenAI, is fed at 2/3, let's say, the material it is fed with is in English. We are not a unilingual environment, no? So these are, how can I say, this is information, this is awareness raising that we have to do, covering quality, covering equality of languages, covering confidentiality, things that we mentioned before, accountability, reliability, responsibility. Customers have to be aware of all this. And apart from that, cost. Does anybody seriously think that AI interpreting comes for free? With, as I repeat again, 24 languages, but also let's talk about the UN environment, 6 languages. Languages that have small digital outprints or that are very difficult, very challenging to put into the models. Think because we're talking about ethical considerations of the impact on the environment, etc. I don't say that we have to stop it. I don't say that we have to say, no, it doesn't work. What I'm saying is that we need to inform the customers so that they make the informed choices. And here is another skill maybe that we can mention, and another profile that we could mention and we could develop in the institutions, which is the consultant interpreter, who can give guidance to the customers about what is the best way, to use AI interpreting or human interpreters. We discussed a lot about replacing, will it replace, etc. I'm not in the position to tell you right now it will replace there or there, but we know that meetings are very different. Not all meetings are the same. There are meetings that are very scripted. There are meetings where there is a series of PowerPoints. There are meetings where what is important for the customer is to hear the proper terminology. Maybe these meetings can work with AI interpreting, but again, it is a mistake to think that AI interpreting is taking the interpreters out and putting the machines in their place. It does not work like that. It's a totally new environment that needs totally new infrastructure and new skills. And on the other side, you have other types of meetings with impact on people, where empathy and all the other things we mentioned is necessary, where there is interaction, where you need to have the contextual place. So all these things are part of, if you like, the tools that we have to go out and talk to our customers, because what we need is this dialogue with the customers, with the community of practitioners, with the employers. And if I might, please allow me to say one last thing. I think what is very important, and we heard it a lot, is precisely this dialogue. This conference here opened this dialogue among different sides, among different people who have different perspectives about the issues we talked. And I think this is the most important takeaway. Only by talking to each other, not closing our eyes, only by talking to the industry, only by talking to the specialists, and only by finding this interface between IT languages, can we deliver, I think, and can we produce this future that we talked about at the beginning.
Kilian, un comentario más por tu parte sobre todos estos elementos.
A lot to do in 6 months.
It won't be 6 months.
Parece que tenemos que hablar, y no solo las instituciones, los empleadores, con los proveedores tecnológicos, también con las instituciones formadoras, con los investigadores, y este es solo el principio del camino y principio de este diálogo o de estas conversaciones. Muchísimas gracias. Esta charla ha sido sumamente interesante y nos encantaría seguir conversando, pero el tiempo apremia, tenemos que cerrar. Agradezco a nuestros intervinientes, gracias Alexandra, gracias Kilian. Gracias por vuestra... Gracias por vuestras valiosas aportaciones. Yo creo que vuestras ideas nos han enriquecido mucho.
Kilian, Alexandra, merci. Merci d'avoir évoqué avec beaucoup de conviction et aussi des anecdotes interpellantes ce que doit contenir la fameuse boîte à outils qui équipera l'interprète de demain. Et ce que disait Alexandra, ce fameux dialogue entre les différents mondes, le monde de la formation, le monde des employeurs également, eh bien, c'est peut-être le maître mot de cette conférence et qui sait la planche de salut aussi pour le métier.